Good morning, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, members of the media, and those visiting with us today as well. Welcome to this urgent public meeting number 4 of today, Thursday, October 27, 2022. We've established a quorum of 14 members. Please let's stand for a moment of silence. Before we begin, I would like to mention as one of the activities surrounding Breast Cancer Awareness Week, October 24th to the 28th of 2022 in Parliament, themed Parliament Goes Pink, members of Parliament have requested to submit names of breast cancer survivors and warriors that will be mentioned during the notification segment of the scheduled meetings. I would like to make mention and recognize the following individuals in our community whose names were received by members of Parliament, and their names are, by first name for the most, Jenny, Juliet, Pam, Loretta, Maso, Charlotte, Dawn, Julie, Sarah, and the others' full name, Glenda Brady and Yolanda Jackson Martina. To these ladies and others not mentioned, your stories of hope and inspiration has helped to bring some perspective and optimism to many who have been through or are currently fighting this battle called breast cancer. For this, we thank you for sharing your stories with us and with the people of St. Martin and the world. Does any member of Parliament wish to have the floor for notifications? MP Akim Arundel, you have the floor.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam President. For many, some know this is the month my mother passed away, and I would like to send a condolences out to one of her friends from the St. Martin Home with the Yellow Cross. She passed away today, Ms. Nurse Claudette, to her and her family. That will be all.
And condolences and strength to you too, MP Arundel. Any other member of Parliament wish to have the floor for notifications? I see MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and a good morning to my colleagues, a good morning to all tuned in to this meeting, a good morning to those in the Tribune, and thank you for the opportunity for notifications, Madam Chair Lady. This time I also want to recognize the definitely breast cancer warrior and survivor on St. Martin, our former colleague Tamara Leonard. I also want to mention in the context of your presentation, Blondell, who in fact asked me if it was too late for her to be mentioned, and I told her absolutely not, because this is not trying in any way to cover everyone, but those who we mention, we want them to serve as an inspiration for all. So to those who have passed due to breast cancer, I extend condolences to their families, and to those fighting and having survived breast cancer, I say, way to go. Keep up the awareness. All the organizations that have been bringing awareness to the people of St. Martin throughout the year, and specifically in October, Breast Cancer Month, I say thank you for your work and continue the good work that you're doing. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Is there any member of Parliament that wish to have the floor for notification? I see no need. Then we go over to the 3 agenda points for this public meeting. The first agenda point is incoming documents. The second agenda point is ratification of the decision list of the Inter-Parliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPCO, held from September 27th to the 30th, 2022 in The Hague, the Netherlands. This can be found under IS 048 Parliamentary Year 2022 to 2023, dated September 30th, 2022. And the third agenda point is thank the Chair for her services thus far and relieve her of her duties. This can be found under IS 026 Parliamentary Year 2022-2023, dated September 20th, 2022. This agenda point was requested by MP William Marlin, MP George Pandaflet, MP Angelique Rameau, MP Rolando Bryson, MP Akeem Arundel, MP Chanel Brownbill, MP Sihat Bijlani, and MP Hyacinth Richardson. We go over to agenda point 1. Yes? Gary? Yes? Okay. Oh, to the requesters of the meeting for agenda point, for the agenda point 3, thank the chair for her services. It was not written in the letter to have the first round in 5 minutes. It was not requested, so I'd like to know if you want to maintain that request, or do you want to have the first round and second round as usual, because it was not requested. MP Bryson? You would like to maintain it at 5 minutes? So we will maintain the agenda point 3, round 1, 5 minutes. Everyone is okay with that? MP Prescott Williams?
Madam Chair Lady, and so is the proposal
The
that
proposal was never, it was never written in the proposal. The initial proposal, yes, but the proposal that we received in writing from the 8 members of parliament, it was never listed that they would like to maintain the round 1, 5 minutes.
And
so we need to have that for the record.
and only one round?
That was what was initially requested.
I don't want to be limited to no 5 minutes,
So
Madam.
let's put this to a vote. What do we do?
For example.
Then we can maintain it at one round 10 minutes and the second round 5 minutes? Yes? So the first round for the agenda point will be 10 minutes and the second round will be 5 minutes. No one is opposed to that. Okay, perfect. Then let's go over now to agenda point 1. All members have received the list of incoming documents and the proposals for the further handling. This is found on the IS 044 to 090 of the parliamentary year. Are there any comments? Are there any comments or proposals on the list presented? And to which member of parliament I would like give the floor? MP Bryson? MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just regarding the incoming documents, Madam Chair, as we are beginning to receive legislation coming to Parliament related to the handling of the budget, I once again would like to ask that the government provide the documents translated in English. So what you call the Khatala book, as we call it, as well as the policy document, that they're all anything related to this budget. Once again, the call is for it to be translated in English. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Any other member of parliament wish to have the floor regarding this? Your request is noted, MP Bryson. If there are no more comments, then the list for the proposal for the handling is approved. We go over now to agenda point 2, the ratification of the decision list of the Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPCO, held from September 27 to the 30th, 2022 in The Hague, the Netherlands. This, as mentioned before, can be found under IS 048, Parliamentary Year 2022 to 2023, dated September 30th, 2022. The recently held Tripartite and Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPCO, was held from September 27th to the 30th of this year in The Hague. During the IPCO event, members of parliament from within the kingdom participated in presentations and held discussions on the following topics: recent developments per countries, presentations and discussions of unsolicited advice from the Kingdom Council of State on the kingdom, treaties and union law, discussion of consensus kingdom laws, cooperations and the democratic deficits in the kingdom, and the colonialism and slavery. At the end of the deliberation, an agreement list was drafted and signed by delegation leaders. Parliament received the decision list of the Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPCO, held September 27 to the 30th of this year in The Hague, the Netherlands, on September 30th via email. This document is registered, as mentioned before, on the incoming document 048, dated September 30th, 2022. The intention of this agenda point is for Parliament to approve, ratify the content of the agreement list of the IPCO. Once approved, the agreement list will be sent to government for their reactions. All members of parliament received the agreement list via email. Are there any comments on the list of the agreements as presented? Note, the allotted speaking time is 20 minutes in the first round and 10 minutes in the second round. Is there a member of parliament who wishes to have the floor? No? If there is no need, then we have come to the end of the deliberation on the advice, and according to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to the voting of the agreement list of IPCO. Should I take a 5-minute break? 2-minute break? Okay, I'll take a 2-minute break before we go to the voting of the abstract list, the agreement list. Meeting adjourned for 2 minutes. Just took a 2-minute adjournment to allow the Secretary General the opportunity to prepare for the voting for the agreement list for IPCO. Does any member of parliament wish to have roll call before we approve the agreement list? If not, then the list has been accepted unanimously. We now go over to agenda point 3. Thank the chair for her service thus far and relieve her from her duties. This can be found under IS 026-2022-2023, dated September 20th, 2022. On September 20th, 2022, Parliament received a letter, IS 026, signed by MP Marlin, MP Ponteflet, MP Rameau, MP Bryson, MP Arundel, MP Brownbill, MP Bijlani, and MP Richardson, with the request that an urgent meeting of Parliament be convened with the above-mentioned agenda point. All members receive a copy of this letter via email. The allotted speaking time is 10 minutes in the first round and 5 minutes in the second round. According to the speakers list, is there any member of Parliament that wishes to have the floor? I'll give a few minutes for I now give the floor over to MP William Allen. MP William Allen, you're allowed to be seated during your speech or presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to colleagues. visitors in the public tribune, viewers and listeners at home. Madam Chair, I want to make use of the few minutes allotted here to point out to the reason why I, for one, had signed on to this agenda point. Madam Chair, when we look at what some people are saying on social media, it's like, oh, they're attacking a female, or they're going after women. Madam Chair, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Madam Chair, if we were attacking females or we're going after females, we would not have a female prime minister, we would not have a female chair of parliament, and we definitely would not have a female as Minister of Justice as well. Madam Chair, what we do need to realize and put into proper perspective is that following an election, and this has been the case ever since 2010, no one party won a majority. Parties would come together and form a coalition. Those parties sign or enter into a coalition agreement, and by virtue of that coalition agreement, there are ministerial positions allotted to the different parties, and a chair and vice chairs are allotted to parties supporting the coalition as well. You would never find a situation where the coalition parties would say, well, we're going to appoint a minister from another party, or we will appoint someone other from the opposition parties as chair of parliament. And one of the reasons is that you would want the chair to work along with government, synchronize with government. When meetings are being called, that the chair would synchronize with government. Minister, when can you come? It is not so that if opposition or parliament says, we want a minister to come to parliament tomorrow, that the chair will accommodate them without communicating with the ministers in question to find out, can you make it for Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? Madam Chair, what we have seen over the past weeks is a change in position by the chair, and in a certain sense, hostility towards certain ministers, whereby ministers are told verbatim, whether you like it or not, the meeting will start at 3:30. With or without you, the meeting will be scheduled, or the meeting will resume. Even when a minister asks for 2 weeks to get answers together, the chair, on record in Parliament, not even during the adjournment, would tell a minister, but minister, you only have 5 questions, so why would you need 2 weeks? And verbally basically attack a minister and saying the minister is playing games and this kind of thing. Madam Chair, the coalition members have discussed this in coalition meeting, and at a given moment it was like, no, this is going too far. Hence the reason for this request. Madam Chair, I can tell you it is nothing personal, at least not from my side. It is no attack on women. It is basically the coalition members saying, no, this cannot and should not continue in this form, and that's all it is about. Madam Chair, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, MP Marlin. Is there any other member of parliament wish to have the floor? I'll give the MP some time to sign in. I now give the floor to MP Peterson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A good morning to you, a good morning to the griffier, to the Secretariat, to my honorable colleagues, to our guests in the hall, and to everybody else tuned in throughout the various media outlets. Madam Chair, I, for one, won't let this agenda point pass without adding my 2 cents to the discussion, because to my opinion, we've reached a new low here in Parliament today. Not only are we witnessing a coalition attempting to remove the highest vote getter amongst the lot of them from the position of President of Parliament, but this is actually coming from a coalition that refused to hold their own minister accountable when a High Council of State condemned his actions. The reasoning behind this move is still left to be heard. We've heard certain so-called seasoned members of Parliament go on the radio and plain out tell the public that the President of Parliament is here to serve the coalition, a constant pattern of setting the bar lower and lower and lower. That's what this coalition has been about. But don't be fooled, people of St. Martin. The position of President of Parliament is there to be objective and to serve the people, not to serve the coalition or to serve the government. That statement is a plain-out amateuristic lie and holds absolutely no legal weight. It is the duty of the chairperson of Parliament to make sure that these meetings are not hijacked, not by MPs, and especially not by ministers. Serve the people, Madam Chair. That's what the tantra should be. Madam Chair, they are requesting you to resign today, while the sentiment out there by most people in St. Martin is that actually one of these MPs has to resign himself. Subjecting the Parliament of St. Martin to a deadlock risk for almost a year now, to my opinion, is the most irresponsible act any MP can perform, let alone stubbornly refusing to leave the office of minister after Parliament has voted you out. The Parliament of St. Martin, Madam Chair, and the people of St. Martin have yet to see an official coalition agreement, while we have been asking for this for months. We have no idea where the basis is coming from any of these decisions, but we have to agree with it. There's a new coalition. But now we can clearly see what the priorities are for this coalition. Opportunistic politics with zero accountability. Put aside the fact, Madam Chair, that the position of President of Parliament has been put to shame by our former President of Parliament. But now, ironically, this same group is attempting an internal coup. Well, Madam Chair, to my opinion, you have been unbiased, you have served your country well, and you have upped the very low standard that was left behind for this most honorable position of President of Parliament. Needless to say, Madam Chair, I will not be voting to remove you from this position. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, MP Peterson. Is there any other member of Parliament that wish to sign in the first round? Yes? Yes, okay. Next on the speakers list, we have MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Madam Chair Lady, good morning once again, and thank you. Madam Chair Lady, while I was not doubting that it would happen, I had hoped that the members of Parliament who are defending this proposal on the table with the argument that the President of Parliament is acting biased towards opposition MPs for the sake of the development and growth of Parliament. I had expected, I was hoping actually, that this argument would not be repeated in the halls of Parliament, in this legislative hall. Madam Chair Lady, it is true. The position of President of Parliament has, since and before 10-10-10, been one of discussion of the coalition agreements between two or more parties. However, Madam Chair Lady, with respect to the task of the President of Parliament, that role is clear. And when someone attempts to bring that role into practice more and more, to then be pulled back by members of the very same coalition that appointed or put forward the name of the President of Parliament to serve in the position of Parliament, of President of Parliament. Madam Chair Lady, then I can only conclude the following. The OBC is still very much alive and kicking. And when I say what the OBC is, then I'll explain that it has nothing to do with, one, old, nothing to do with, two, boys, and nothing to do with club per se. The OBC, the Old Boys Club, is still very much alive and kicking. And it has nothing to do with age, old. It has nothing to do with gender, boys, and it has nothing to do with a club per se. It's a mentality. And while some might get upset that reference is made to this being an attack on the female gender, the female person in high position, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And when one is not desirous of playing along those rules, trying to act along the rules of order of Parliament, then we see the kind of action that we're seeing here today, and in fact, which was attempted before and via another channel, and since that didn't materialize, we're here today. Coming from the mouths of some of the very same persons who talk about elevating the standards in Parliament, elevating the position of Parliament acting independently from government. Madam Chair Lady, to the contrary, I am on record for stating that I believed for too long the agenda of Parliament was adjusted to suit government. Government decides when they're going to come to Parliament on the topics that matter to the people of St. Martin. When it is good and if the government ministers feel they have something good to share and the propaganda machine starts, then the members are ready to come to Parliament. Other than that, the President of Parliament is being told, we can't come today. We have a meeting to go to. And Parliament is to fold its arms and await when the government can come in here to, for example, discuss the amended budget 2022, nearly the end of October. And that, yes, has been rushed because that is on for tomorrow. Now, if members of Parliament had to react and say, we don't have enough time for that, then they'll say, yeah, but you don't want to support the government in getting the budget, the amended budget 2022 passed. So, Madam Chair Lady, where is the balance? Where is the balance in all of this? Of course, there is not a man, woman, child on St. Martin who thinks that the arguments brought to dismiss the chair of Parliament is the real arguments behind this. Nobody believes that, Madam Chair Lady. So to come and pretend now to the people that this has something to do with the way politics are being conducted on St. Martin. Really? Really? With everything that is out there, really? We are to believe those are the arguments? The chair of Parliament is biased towards the opposition. Well, Madam Chair Lady, you know, I have sat in your position before on more than one occasion. And Madam Chair Lady, the backlash that I got at the time, and look at us today. Look where we're at today, Madam Chair Lady. And was it not sad to a certain extent? It would have been laughable knowing how the position of President of Parliament has been treated by some members in Parliament. So, Madam Chair, this fight ain't have a thing to do with how you or one before you or me conducted the role of President of Parliament. And anybody in here who thinks that the members in here and the people of St. Martin are fooled by the presentations made to support the dismissal of the President of Parliament should know better. And I guess, Madam Chair Lady, we go here, it's not going to be now a introspection by some. No. We go here, especially towards me. Oh, but Madam Chair Lady, you remember how much she was against you when you did and you did not do? Well, Madam Chair Lady, on the topic that was mentioned, decolonization, why hasn't the government carried out what they have in their governing program regarding that topic? Why look at me as a member of the opposition? I have all rights to state my position on any topic that I feel necessary. So, Madam Chair Lady, I wait for the spin, because no spin in the world is going to make the people of St. Martin, man, woman, and child, believe that what has been presented as the support for this agenda point is what is actually the situation behind seeking to remove the Chair of Parliament of St. Martin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Yes, I'll give you a few minutes. Another member of Parliament sign in. Next, we have MP Rolando Bryson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to my colleague MPs, to you, the Khifir, and to those viewing this meeting. Madam Chair, I've stated many times, and I can understand in the realm of politics where things like this can be brought so far away from the meat of the matter and the content of what is being handled. Madam Chair, as was described earlier, a majority of Parliament, a majority that has decided to work together, okay, whether it's 8, whether it's 10, whether it's 15, once they agree to work together and every individual respects every other individual in that coalition, because if it's one thing we've learned in this Parliament, is that everyone has their right to vote, something that I respect, something that we just experienced recently. Every individual vote matters. So you have to have an understanding of who is dedicated to be a part of a coalition. And if somebody tells me I am not working with certain members of our coalition, I won't immediately react. I will try, and I will try, and I will try, and I will try, for the sake of the members of my party, for the sake of our minister over there, who is working his butt off, holding 2 ministries, and try to find the most amicable way possible. And going through all of these roads, we lead here today. But Madam Chair, when I have to hear those that will come to your fake defense, because Madam Chair, I don't believe for a minute that that's real. Because these same individuals, Madam Chair, would come to me and say, so when you going back on the chair, bro? What is she doing with this thing with, how's she going Curacao and asking him to sign on to decolonization, bro? When those conversations were being had, and I said, no, I respect the chair because she is part of our coalition and she's going to learn, she's going to do her job. But you see, when it's nice, when it's convenient for them, for these opposition members, they want to jump to your defense. But Madam Chair, not too long ago, April 28, 2022, do you recall what the PFP faction had to say about you? But you don't represent them? You do not speak on behalf of the PFP faction? How dare you give a position on Coho without their permission? When you filed the petition, both instances, I defended you vehemently. When you filed the second position, it was, oh God, how she could do that. She doesn't speak on behalf of us. But today, because they want to be a party, the PFP has shown they are about trying to cause whatever confusion they can at every opportunity, whether it's recording ministers, whether it's feigning defense for somebody that they have personally said they do not like. They do not like her husband. They do not like their family. They think that you are the worst thing that has happened to this country. They have said that time and time again. But look at them now. No, I come into the defense. No, it's not the defense of you. It's the defense of their political scheme, which is to simply say that nothing we do is good enough. That is what it has boiled down to now. This is a political situation, Madam Chair, that I've told you time and time again. I've always wanted to avoid, and I'll continue to support you, and I will never give up on you. But the chair of parliament should not define you. I don't believe that defines you, just like I did not allow that position to define me. It is a position that a majority chooses that can cycle from time to time, and then you have one who not once but twice from the UD and then the DP before resigned as president of parliament. But then turning around years later and advising you what not to do. But why did she resign? Why did she resign in each of those instances? Why didn't she put on this fight? But you see, Madam Chair, when we have these situations, I think all we can do as a parliament is grow from it and learn from it. And you know, an MP mentioned in the last meeting something that I did decide to look into actually, because what happened with you do not have the word, I was like, I need to go back and find out what really went down. And Madam Chair, lo and behold, on the other side of that coin, one of the people sitting down here and so-called jump into your defense was one of the people that withhold a critical letter from the governor just to try to prevent the dissolution of parliament, just to try to have whatever scheme she can. Madam Chair, these people do not care about you. They do not. We have a lot of work to do as a party. It has not been easy. This transition has been one of the most difficult things that me, my colleagues, our minister, our members, our board have had to endure. It has not been easy for none of us. But if we just keep thinking the work that we have to do, the things that we are doing, where we are close to giving this country, for the first time, 4 years of governance, first time ever. I saw a recent poll where the majority of the population does not want an election. I believe it was 72% do not want an election. So I have the difficult choice to manage all of this. The people, the party, my colleagues, even the opposition. I will take what they say into account. The media, the government, everyone. And just decide what's best for St. Martin right now. And Madam Chair, I think in the hopes that we can find a way to continue to work as a coalition to support the government to keep doing what they have to do. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of improvements to be made, but I feel coming out of COVID and probably hopefully having our first balanced budget that in the year 2023, we can finally see the fruits of our labor. So Madam Chair, I think just to give that proper context, this is a very simple issue of the majority in Parliament will select a President of Parliament. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Is there any other member of Parliament? I'll hold on. Next, we have MP Melissa Gums. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairlady. Madam Chairlady, initially I wasn't going to say anything in this meeting beyond the motivation of my vote when we came to that point. However, I always feel compelled to say something when the word female is used so many times to describe a human woman. But anyway, Madam Chairlady, I remember that this parliament, what this parliament was like after the February 26, 2018 election. I remember it very well. It's my father's birthday, and it was the second election I voted in since returning home. It was the first election for the speaker prior to me. And you know, he did indeed end up in parliament after that election. As a former Teen Times colleague, I was happy to see another young person enter into this arena. But it's curious to hear talk about respect and fake defense when the same speaker before me spent a majority of time complaining about the biasness of the chair of parliament in that particular parliament and parliaments thereafter. because the very same justification being given now for this agenda point is indeed the reasons why the people bringing this agenda point to you wanted MP Westcott removed from the presidency of Parliament. So the double speak, something I'm not unaccustomed to with this coalition, is very concerning to me. It's also curious to hear talk about respect and fake defense in a coalition where a president of Parliament was caught on tape disrespecting not just his coalition colleague and the founder of the party that saw fit to make him leader, but the people of St. Martin in general, by alluding to collusion with two ministers, one of whom they drag people in here to save from accountability. Madam Chair, Lady, I ask the people of St. Martin not to allow themselves to continue to be gaslit by this coalition, this government. When I think of the psychological damage being carried out on this country by these people, it's actually very saddening. I'm not here to defend any one person, but I am here to defend the presidency of Parliament, which is supposed to be objective, unbiased, no matter who selects them. In the kingdom, there's even precedence for an opposition member being the president of Parliament. And Madam Chair, Lady, it's funny to try to put words in my mouth when you yourself has heard from my true feelings from my own mouth. That's the thing. As the speaker before me well knows, I have always said to everyone, when I am coming, you will know, because I will let you know as a courtesy to brace yourself. What I see here, Madam Chair, is variations of narcissism, Napoleon syndrome, a host of other things I'm sure I could look up on whatever website and say it here, but I myself believe in clinical diagnoses, so I'll leave it to that profession to decide. But it is something to say about the legacies that we set down in this Parliament. We are new to this Parliament. We have conducted ourselves with transparency, integrity, no matter what people may say, because when you feel threatened, you take measures to protect yourself, and when you don't feel threatened, you don't. Madam Chair, Lady, I won't be supporting any vote to remove you as the President of Parliament simply because you started calling meetings for everybody. Those are the complaints that I had to listen to in 2018, 2019, et cetera, from the very same people now using that justification to remove you from the chair. And I do hope that at some point in time we elevate the level in here across the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. I see another member of Parliament coming to sign in. Next, we have MP Duncan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleagues, everyone tuned in. Madam Chair, I will not add to what was said because I believe that everything that some of my colleagues said before me is quite valid, and I hope that the people of St. Martin are tuned in. I had a quote from Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to run for the President of the United States, and this was in the 70s. I find this quote very interesting now, and it not only resonates for me in my career so far, my very young political career, but I think it resonates in this case as well. It is incomprehensible to me the fear that can affect men in political offices, some women too. It is shocking the way they submit to forces they know are wrong and fail to stand up for what they believe. Can their jobs be so important to them, the prestige, their power, their privileges, so important that they will cooperate in the degradation of our society just to hang on to those jobs, just to hang on to that power, just to hang on to that prestige? That is a quote from Shirley Chisholm that I wanted to read out today. And Madam Chair, I will not be supporting the vote to remove you as chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Duncan. Is there any member of Parliament that wish to have the floor for round one? MP De Weaver, I'll give you a few minutes to come over. You need more than a few minutes. Take your time with that. Take your time. I now give the floor to MP De Wever.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Khifir, my colleagues here in Parliament, persons visiting in the Tribune, listening and viewing, those listening and viewing the rest of the persons here in the building. Madam Chair, I listened to everyone here talk today, and it just reminded me of our closing and opening of Parliament speech that I gave, where I felt that we were preoccupied, or it appears that the persons in charge, whether it's Parliament or the Council of Ministers, are preoccupied with nothing else than bringing each other down instead of actually the real problems of this country. And I said along the lines of, I got involved under my belief that politics is about people. When you listen to everyone that has spoken here today, it is about the topic at hand, which is about your position as chair. I get that. But what I don't hear, and even if I did, it was so brief that almost it wasn't even the priority when it's being said. As a reminder, I will say a message to the public via you, Madam Chair, here, is that when whatever happens, pay attention to what is done to bring this island up to another level, to empower the people of this island, to improve our livelihoods, because that is what we are here for. That is what all of us here postulate ourselves for. And if we're gonna continue occupying ourselves with things that is not the importance to our people of this island, then we're gonna have a big problem here. So again, I'm gonna just say my message to the public. Watch what we are all doing. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP De Wever. Next on the speakers list, we have MP Christophe Emmanuel. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady, and good morning to my colleagues, the individuals in the Tribune, and the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, it would be remiss of me to simply sit here and not say anything. But Madam Speaker, right now as we speak, there's a protest going on at the government building. The firefighters are honking their horns, demanding that some representative of the government come out to speak, to say something, to talk. Madam Chair Lady, right now, it's happening at the government building. So Madam Chair Lady, when I stand here and I listened, and you hear that the Chair Lady is representing the opposition because she's not calling meetings that the coalition is asking for, I am troubled. Because I would want to believe, Madam Chair Lady, that I am one of those in opposition and you haven't called not one meeting I have requested. Not one, Madam Chair Lady. And I have been back and forth with you on this saying, not because you're part of the coalition, that means you have to do everything that the coalition tells you to do. What we see here today is a reverse coup. Because they can't get their way from one of their own. So it's to throw out the baby with the bathwater and everything else. Madam Chair Lady, a house divided cannot rule. What we are witnessing here, Madam Chair Lady, is the crumbling of a government. The crumbling of a government. Madam Chair, when the Prime Minister came in here wanting to make an amendment to the law so that civil servants could have been paid, a member of Parliament stood and said, I can't get this understand. I can't get this understand of individuals who vote for something one way, and then here comes now and want to vote for something the other way. Well, I'm sending that same message to my colleagues here today that voted one way to not allow this meeting to be on the agenda the first time, to come now and vote the other way. Don't allow yourself to be used. Don't allow yourself to be used. Madam Chair Lady, the old saying, when you spit in the sky, it falls on your face, because today, those members are the ones keeping this government afloat. Madam Chair Lady. And yes, Madam Chair, I was here. I was here, Madam Chair. And vehemently, it was told to the chair at that time to stand your ground, don't move. And every time the motion was tabled, you do not have the word. You do not have the word. By the same individuals, Madam Chair Lady, who today wants to take the word away from you. One of their own. One of their own, Madam Chair. What we're seeing and witnessing is the quintessential power of hypocrisy, Madam Chair. That's what you're witnessing here today. But with all that is going on, with all that is happening, you can't get answers with what is going on with the airport. You can't get answers with what is going on with the hospital. The firemen are striking. The whole country is in disarray, falling apart. But you know what's the urgent thing? Remove the chair of parliament. Because she tell a minister to answer 5 questions, you need 2 weeks. And 5 questions of his own, he needed 2 weeks. And because he tell a minister, well, with or without you, that's it. Madam Chair, I could remember in the days of the Island Council, Madam Chair lady, since we want to say that dialogue and the narrative is why your person should be removed, Madam Chair, I remember an Island Council member telling the other part of the Island Council, and I show my colleague MP Westcott Williams will remember it, shut up and sit down. I could remember that, Madam Chair. But you see, all those things was good then. Madam Chair, it is said power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's what we're witnessing here today, the corruption of absolute power. So from my end, Madam Chair, you haven't called out one meeting for me, so I don't see where the bias is. But for the people of St. Martin, this is not even a case of when elephants fight. This is not even a case. You are suffering because of a bad government and the worst government in the history of St. Martin. And today it's proven one of their own, Madam Chair, they're even trying and want to dismiss. So from my end, Madam Chair lady, I will not be supporting to remove you from chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Next, we have MP George Ponteflet. You have the floor.
Good morning, Madam President, members of Parliament, those that are following by radio and hopefully television. Madam Chair, in all honesty, I didn't intend to say anything. But it is a dangerous thing to allow certain things to hang out there, Madam Chair, because the public is listening. Madam Chair, as one of my colleagues said, and I also will repeat that too, it is nothing personal against the chair. I worked 20 years or more, Madam Chair, with the mother of the chair. I had a very good relationship. So when I do or say something, Madam Chair, especially in this instance, it is based on the matter of professionalism and the manner in which not is perceived, but it is proven that on this floor of Parliament, Madam Chair, the chair did tell the minister that he does not need all that time to answer questions. And as was said before also in discussion with email or telephone, was told that the meeting will continue whether he's here or not, even though he asked for more time. Madam Chair, because of these instances, Madam Chair, I started paying close attention to the convocations. Because once I see a date in a meeting, it's either public or whatever, committee meetings, is that date, that's the hour, I'll be attending. But when I start paying attention, I see to be confirmed. And I asked the chair, I said, you know, I just realized it's to be confirmed. So I would have thought that when an agenda point is placed on the convocation, it means that the minister has already been contacted. But apparently, I'm not correct, so I'll leave it at that. Well, Madam Chair, the matter of a simple resignation. Look where we are today. A simple resignation, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, I will not quote the lust for power leads to loss of humanity and self-destruction. I'll leave it alone. You see, Madam Chair, the public who are listening right now, they are wondering what in heaven's name is going on. Madam Chair, the rules of order are quite clear, Article 33, and it's quite clear, Constitution, Article 62, as to the manner in which meetings should be called. And nowhere does it state, Madam Chair, that once a minister receives questions from members of parliament, that he or she has to return when the parliament says, Madam Chair. But it says within a reasonable time, Madam Chair, as long as it doesn't affect general order, which I don't understand that, but anyhow, that's what we copied, so that's how it is. Madam Chair, today now we are here because of the actions of the chair. They're quite clear, it has nothing to do with gender, female, male. I can remember one time, Madam Chair, during a campaign, I was on a radio station and I said, but you are attacking a woman. I'm talking 6, 7 years ago. And I'm saying, but wait a minute. I'm not attacking a woman. I'm attacking somebody who's running for office. And I always said, if you want to be in the kitchen, you have to be able to handle the heat. So does that mean now, because it's a female saying something, it's a woman, let's do it? No. Equal rights, Madam Chair. And I respect all women. That's a fact. But Madam Chair, indeed, for me, this is country above self. And Madam Chair, I will not stand here, again, I have to balance because sometimes, again, there's certain things I would never say on this floor because of respect and integrity, Madam Chair. But I know why some individuals behave in certain manner, say certain things. I know it. But what I don't do, I wouldn't record them, Madam Chair, because I think I should show some kind of integrity and respect for privacy for all. Madam Chair, I think it's unfortunate that the chair did not use opportunity to what we would say, resign peacefully from the position of President of Parliament. It is quite clear. It is no secret what was said about who and also, that's no secret, Madam Chair. The fact is that yes, work has to be done, the country has to move on, but when you're working together with a team, should be in the interest of the people of St. Martin. And that for me, Madam Chair, is the most important thing. So Madam Chair, definitely, I will be supporting removal of the chair from Parliament, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Pontefract. Members of Parliament, I see there's no need for any other speaker to sign in for round 1. We now go over to round 2. Is there any need for any member of Parliament to speak? MP William Allen, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, I want to thank you for the opportunity. Madam Chair, it's unfortunate that I don't have the regular time allotted, and even then, I don't think it may have been enough to address the constant attack. Now, should I say because I am a man, or should I say because of who I am? Madam Chair, I did not call sickness upon me. I did not stay in Panama for 6.5 months because I wanted to stay away from St. Martin. I was not in Panama drinking, getting drunk, and mashing up cars and running away from the police. Madam Chair, that's not what I was doing. Madam Chair, I was in hospital, in and out, not because of me, because primarily an infection I got in the hospital during surgery. And to hear a particular member constantly attacking my being ill, my being sick, and my being not able to be on St. Martin, I think it is unfortunate. And one of these days would take probably more time when we have a full round to address this again. And Madam Chair now alluding to the fact that almost 9 months and holding the Parliament hostage. Madam Chair, the Parliament is not being held hostage by me. There are 15 members of Parliament, and if one is not there, the other 14 got to work in the interest of St. Martin. And the hostage holding can only be on the part of those in opposition when they see an opportunity to misuse that opportunity to create a deadlock in Parliament and then want to blame it on someone else and then use sickness of all things. That is the essence of cowardice. That is the essence of cowardice, to use the sickness of someone else to put forward your own agenda. Madam Chair, it is simple. It is simple. Democracy is about majority. It's the numbers. You don't have the numbers, you did not win. If there is an election and you did not get sufficient votes, you do not have a seat. You can't claim seats that you did not win. And if we look at how democracy functions, it is the majority that rules, not the minority. So if a vote is, if the chair is asked to remove and does not want to resign, but wants a vote to remove the chair, then that vote would come. And if there isn't a majority to remove the chair, then there is no majority. But to use all of this time to twist and turn and to make it look as if, you know, those requesting this meeting are going against democracy, that is a pity. Madam Chair, another issue that I would address another time is the issue, my colleague brought it up slightly, but there was no one better than I who knew what brought about you do not have the words. Action triggers a reaction. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Marlin. Next, we have MP Rayon Peterson. You have the floor. Five minutes in this one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that the speaker before me brought the topic to a discussion, because I will use my 5 minutes now to make it clear what my sentiment is on the topic. Madam Chair, I, for one, am not one to victimize myself regardless of my illness. A pregnant woman only gets 3 months maximum of zwangerschapsverlof. She gets pregnancy leave for a maximum of 3 months. So to sit here and hear somebody feel entitled to the position of member of parliament and say that because of his sickness, he is allowed to stay as a member of parliament, come to St. Martin for maybe a month, and then leave back, and then to justify that, to victimize himself and use his sickness to get an emotional reaction, I don't fall for it. I don't fall for it. Because what we heard just now is, what do you call that word? Epigums? Flubber. So just now the good member of parliament said that there is a democracy. A democracy looks at the votes, and if you're not elected, you are not getting a seat. That's what the good gentleman said. But to that same extent, the next person in line on that same political list also was voted on. Because it's very ironic to hear somebody speak about being elected directly while he is the only member within his four-man faction that was actually elected directly. All the others came in because the ministers came in. So to that same extent, why can't the next MP become in because he resigns? Do not use your own sickness to emotionally hijack the people of St. Martin. Subjecting the people to a 7-7 deadlock risk, something that has been done, that we have seen on the floor of Parliament, is cowardice. That is cowardice. People of St. Martin, this discussion about the President of Parliament has taken a life of its own. All of this just because she is not working along with the wishes of the coalition members. That's it. There's nothing here to discuss. There's nothing about being biased or whatnot. It is very reasonable for a chair lady to ask a minister, do you really need 2 weeks for 5 questions? That same minister was saved because these same MPs walked out of a public meeting. Let's not fall for the reverse psychology. Let's not fall for the emotional hijacking. It is time for some serious business. Let's up the standard here in Parliament. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Peterson. Next, we have MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I'll not use too many words on this topic at this time because, as the old adage goes, it is what it is, and I need to echo the sentiments of one of my colleagues in terms of those of us who feel a responsibility in the position that they hold, like myself, will just continue to keep the finger on the pulse of what is happening. The only thing I do want to say in these few minutes remaining is that it shall come to light what the real reasons are for removing the chair of Parliament today, one, and the players who are all involved. It will come to light. And some of that has already been thrown out there, picked up, whatever have you. Madam Chair Lady, we all have become political and constitutional scholars and experts on the matter of democracy and the like. But Madam Chair Lady, when we talk about democracy as ruled by the majority, don't forget a part of respect for the minority, because that is what we're seeing, that lack is what we're seeing displayed here and towards the people of St. Martin by the government of St. Martin. Thank you. Oh, Madam Chair Lady, I was rounding up because I had got the signal, but I am basically finished with what I wanted to say in this second round. It is not what it is portrayed to be, and there is no one here, whether they got 10, 20, or 30 minutes, can make a difference in that perception. You know, if there's one thing, whether we like it or not, whether we like how they express it or not, but the average St. Martiner can't be fooled, and they're not fooled. And if they're making anybody believe that they're fooled, they're doing that for a reason too. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Next on the speakers list, we have MP Rolando Bryson.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you know, it seems like the focus again, attempts are, that's why I started by saying this is a much simpler thing that is being portrayed. A majority of Parliament selects a President of Parliament. I maintain that point. And if anyone, like we've had members of the Parliament that are currently in opposition that will go to the Prime Minister and say, Prime Minister, are you ready to join? You know, don't worry, or you could call me. If they want to join, or you or anyone else decides they now want to be a part of this coalition, there can always be a discussion about that. The thing about it is, Madam Chair, again coming back to the fact that within our party, our most senior member in this party in terms of his time of service in this Parliament is MP Bijlani. I think we both know he's a very fair person, he's very stoic and reserved. And he did not come to this conclusion to sign on to such a meeting very easily. He met with you, he met with us. We had a mediator that we assigned, also a prominent member of the party. We have continued to try. And it is quite a contrast to when a situation happened with me, where members of the party are facing me and saying, you know what, Rolando, for the good of the party, for the good of, you know, easing everyone, let us agree to, Rolando, you step down as chair. Madam Chair, I took 2 or 3 days. I asked, let me just think about it. And I made the decision. I did not allow this to go out into the public sphere and votes and all of this, because I decided that I don't want to put all my colleagues in this situation, whether I believe it or not. But the party that I am a part of matters as well. Their views, their positions. And again, if anyone wants to maybe make this seem that this is just MP Bryson. Madam Chair, you know, all the members of the UP party know that I have continuously consulted step by step about this situation. And it is deeper than what we're facing today. We all know that. But two people for sure I will single out that I've listened to very carefully about this situation is our most senior member of parliament, MP Bijlani, and our very hardworking minister, Omar Atley. And I would not do anything without consulting with our party, because that is important. If we want to come back to what the UP party was originally about, which is a party that believes that there's economic opportunity for everyone, then I cannot exemplify behavior that only thinks about one person. I have to think about everyone, Madam Chair. And that is the balance that I seek to strike. I do think that some of the comments about whether it's how you conduct meetings and so on, Madam Chair, maybe that would be the position of some of them. That is not where I seek the position. We have a deeper issue here that we will continue, that at least myself and the other members within the party will continue to try to reach out to you on. But in order for us to move on and get this parliament and get the coalition and everybody going into this last term where we can see other parties are already going into their election mode and changing their tune from, well, the chair don't speak to me too. I support the chair, Madam Chair. This is all politics. That's all fine. We're all used to that. But the essence of what we're here to do today and what we're here to do in Parliament is to work for the people. And again, I say, do not allow a chair. I never allowed that chair to define my work. My work continued. The banking legislation, budget amendments, representation in Parliament, everything continues, because one thing no one can take from you is your seat, Madam Chair. So I thank you once again. And again, I also want to say a special thank to my colleagues and all within the party, including MP Bijlani and Omar Atley. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Next, we have MP Melissa Gums. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I won't belabor this point by actually recollecting how that situation last year took place. What was stated is not my memory of it at all, and I think whomever was a faction leader in that conference room with me at the time, unfortunately MP Bonkamper is not here, because I'm pretty sure he probably would have jumped up with something to say about it. That is not how it went, but that is aside the, 2-3 days, yes, after being convinced and asked and begged so that we didn't get to this point, but maybe it should have gotten to this point, actually. Madam Chair, I wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of clarify something for the people after all the emotional pontification we've had here today regarding sickness. In the Netherlands, you have now the precedent set that a MP has taken in temporarily for an MP that's on sick leave. That is what we're referring to when we talk about the risk of a deadlock parliament. To state that any deadlocking would be at the behest of opposition is again trying to paint the image that opposition simply has to vote along when the numbers are not in coalition's favor, which to me means that we're not then allowed to vote our conscience. So I just wanted to clarify a bit on that. And again, Madam Chair, personal attacks aside, personal attacks are what happens when people don't have substantial reasons for the things that they are doing when they're doing them. Personal attacks aside, again, I am here to defend the presidency of Parliament. I would hope that it would be objective. I have never seen you neglect to call a meeting for anybody that has been asked for it. I have never seen you skip important meetings, go abroad to things or not go abroad for whatever reasons, frivolous or otherwise. I've seen you show up, and despite my personal opinion on, for example, the decolonization trajectory and how it's been handled, which I've said to you privately as well as publicly, because I believe that that is actually true transparency. Beyond that, I am not dissatisfied with your performance. So again, I think everyone has to remain a little objective and tell the truth with how things actually went down. I don't know that you were asked to resign because those things are not shared with us, obviously. That's how it went down, and that's how it went down, but here we are nevertheless. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. Next, we have MP Duncan. No need. MP De Weaver. No need. MP Emmanuel? MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
We have a need, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, of course we have a need. I need to speak now. And the reason for that, Madam Chair, is because I was in that faction leaders meeting, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair, I listened to a member of parliament says, but to help everybody. And I want to thank my colleague Bejlani, and I want to thank Omar Audley. But Madam Chair Lady, you part of the party too, and you ain't getting no thanks. You ain't getting no thanks, Madam Chair. Madam Chair Lady, the reason why the former chairman of parliament resigned was because of pressure. He didn't resign on his own after 3 days because he found the contrition to resign on his own after 3 days. It did not happen that way, Madam Chair Lady. In the meeting, in the conference room, speak the truth, man. It didn't happen that way, and after 3 days I resigned. No, you did not. You begged and begged and begged and asked and wanted to go to a vote and all different sort of things. Speak the truth. And this is the problem we are having in this country, Madam Chair Lady. What you are seeing is a resemblance of the government. Madam Chair, deceit over and over, Madam Chair Lady. You are on a tape being called a DFG, Madam Chair Lady. And since there's economic prosperity for all and everybody must enjoy, it was said on that tape that you and your husband will never get another permit from this government. But yet we're sharing everything. Yet it's a wealth for everybody. So what happened then, Madam Chair Lady? But you come on the floor of Parliament, you look at the people, you look at these people of St. Martin, bold face in their eyes, and tell them after 3 days you resign because it was done so easily. That's a lie, Madam Chair. And I had nothing to say now. I was simply going to say nothing in the second round, but I said, wait a minute, it got to be delusion because I was in that room. I was in that room. Madam Chair, it didn't happen that way. It did not happen that way. But nonetheless, Madam Chair, I am going to slide this cross to my members of Parliament, to the independent member of Parliament, and to the member of Parliament representing you. You are leaders, or you are a leader. Don't allow yourself to be used. That's all it is. You, at some point in time, must stand your ground. Madam Chair, it is disgusting. And oh, when time permits, we're going to address the issue of you don't have the word, but that's what it was. There's no time to permit nothing. That's what it was. That's what it was. A motion was coming of no confidence. And to avoid that motion, Madam Chair, that is what was done and that was being said. You do not have the word. And you know what was said after that? They went and found some Joe off of the street, bring him in to hold the meeting. That's what was said. That's how it was done. Madam Chair. But today, because the chair lady of Parliament is not following to their tune, you're the worst. And it's not personal. Thank God it ain't personal, because if it was personal, oh my goodness, you would have been lynched. Madam Chair Lady. So, Madam Speaker, I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Next, we have MP Pantaflat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I will have to see if I can find a book that talks about how to be a politician. Madam Chair, I want to apologize to the people of St. Martin because this is a display, Madam Chair, of things that should not happen if one put them first in whatever they're doing. A lot of spin has been put this morning, and to that I say it takes a spin doctor to know one, Madam Chair. There are those who have done what they know they have done, and again, I will not call any names because, Madam Chair, again, respect for this hall and for persons, for me, is of utmost importance. When I listen to little whippersnappers, Madam Chair, Pascomakakers, as you were saying, Madam Chair, I say this to myself. Hopefully, if you live long enough, you'll understand what life is all about, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, when it comes to the matter of holding Parliament hostage, Madam Chair, as my colleague said, there are 15 members of Parliament, and if one is away, it has nothing to do with voting, but it has to do with having a quorum to start a particular meeting, Madam Chair. So the one being away has nothing to do with it. The issue is opposition realizes that we don't have the 8, so they are the one who will hold us hostage. So don't talk about the issue of the 14 and so on about one being away. No, Madam Chair, that has nothing to do with it. Madam Chair, the Constitution is quite clear as to how long a member of Parliament can be out ill. So I'm not even going to that discussion. But Madam Chair, what I think is happening, Madam Chair, is total disrespect for persons and their illness, Madam Chair. And those of us who have been around long enough, because apparently this particular MP doesn't know that, Madam Chair, the old people say, you don't make jokes when it comes to illnesses, Madam Chair, because you never know who or when or how. And what they say, if you spit in the air, be careful what happens. Maybe they don't know that saying, Madam Chair, especially when you live abroad for so long in a cold country. So, Madam Chair, again, as I said in the beginning, a simple resignation would have solved this entire problem, Madam Chair. And today, we had to put the people of St. Martin through this nonsense, unfortunately. But again, what's important though, the people of St. Martin know very well who is who, and be very careful. They know who is who. So, Madam Chair, I will not continue. I'll leave it at this now. I think I've said enough, and we'll get down to the voting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Pantouflet. We have come now to the end of round 2, and according to the articles of 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to the voting on this agenda point. Does any member of Parliament wish to have roll call? Hope to look at stemming? Hope to look. I see MP. Yes? Roll. You have to mention it. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to pick a number. Number 7. And before we proceed with the voting, is there any member of Parliament that wishes to have the floor for motivation? Anyone would like to motivate their vote before we proceed? MP Angelique Rameau.
Pleasant good morning, Madam Chair Lady. Pleasant good morning to my colleague MPs. A pleasant good morning to the viewing and listening public, and also to the persons in the tribune. Madam Chair Lady, I would like to motivate my vote this morning because there is so much that can be said concerning this situation, a situation that for me is very unfortunate. Much was said about supporting the coalition or not supporting the coalition, and I would like to state for the record that I am here to represent and support the people of St. Martin. And I also would like to say to the people of St. Martin that I now see and have been privy to why I was told over and over again that politics is a game that is played by many, and that when individuals do not get what they want, you will see them either pull their support from the coalition or pull their support from governments, etc., etc. To put it in short, people often say that politics is a nasty game. I would like to state that my 2 years here in Parliament, I would consider it to have been very amicable. I felt like we were making strides as colleagues, as individual members, not supporting a party or coalition, but supporting and representing the people of St. Martin. I am slowly seeing that change. To you, the people of St. Martin, I would like you to know, which I think most people already know, that I will never be the politician who will go down and get down dirty in the mud. I will never try to ridicule my colleagues, try to call them names, etc. Because for me, when we talk about uplifting and holding up the standards here in Parliament, that's where it starts. You know, we can all have our different opinions, we can be from different parties, we can not agree, but one thing I think we should agree is to disagree. But never should that take the form of belittling or trying to make someone else look bad to make ourselves look better. One fact that I believe that was not mentioned in all of this, and I'm quite surprised that none of my colleagues in the coalition mentioned it, is that when the decision was taken for MP Bryson to step down as the Chair of Parliament, this was indeed a coalition agreement, and there's so much that can be said that I will not divulge, because I think sometimes when you are having internal discussions, that is what it should be. It should remain internal discussions, because that is also elevating the standards, what we are accustomed to. It was a decision taken, I think, by the majority in the coalition eventually, that MP Bryson would step down, but also that after he would have gone through his time, that he would resume the position of the President of Parliament. That too was a discussion and a decision that was taken. Besides that, I also want to say that, you know, power is something that I've come to also realize changes people. Some utilize it for the best interest of the country and others not. And there's so many things that I know standing here today that have transpired throughout this situation that I will not stand here and talk about. I will not go on the radio and discuss it either. But what I will say is that the people of St. Martin indeed need to wake up and see what is really going on here. Madam Chair Lady, this is not personal, because I think we have also had a very amicable working relationship, but I believe the fact was left out. A decision was taken, agreement was made, and this is where we are today, where the agreement is going to be upheld. I also want to make people understand one last thing, that it is not power that corrupts people, but it is people that corrupts power. I will have to vote in favor because of a decision and a coalition agreement that was made, and that is how I defend my vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Ramu. Is there any other member of Parliament wish to have the floor for motivation? MP Westcott-Williams.
Madam Chair Lady, with your permission, this is not, or maybe not yet, my motivation, but I have a proposal of order. I have a question. What is the vote on? What is the vote on? We have a letter from members of parliament in which an agenda point is mentioned. So what are we voting on? The letter? What are we voting on, Madam Chair Lady, is my question before I could even cast my vote. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
MP Westcott Williams, I too was a bit confused with the proposal. I assumed that a motion would have been coming maybe in the first or the second round, but I'm assuming that we are now going to vote based on what is written on the letter. So I see MP Bryson would like to explain as one of the signatories of the meeting. MP Bryson.
Madam Chair, thank you. The rules of order, I looked at this aspect. The rules of order does not state the method by which, whether it's a motion or anything, it says that it can be relieved. So to me, I think with everyone speaking today and saying, this is how I'm going to vote, this is how I'm not going to vote, it is pretty clear that the purpose of the meeting has to do with that particular article, which does not state that it has to be done by motion. As a matter of fact, Madam Chair, I think it would be a very strange thing for a parliamentarian to vote on a motion that relates to another parliamentarian. That is very strange.
So I'm assuming that we're going to be voting on the proposal, which is the agenda point is the proposal. That's what we're going to be voting on today, members of parliament. Yes? Okay. So any other member of parliament wish to have the floor for motivation before we proceed with the vote? MP Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not motivation, just a question. So what are we going to vote on? For would be to remove you as chair, and against would be to keep you, because it's still unclear
Yes.
what decision point we're going to be deliberating.
For the record, yes, 4 would be to remove me as chair and to thank me for my services and thus far relieve me of my duties. That's 4. And against would be to allow me to remain as chair. Any other member of parliament, again, before we go into the vote? I would like to motivate my vote. Obviously and factually so, we're here today because of the way one meeting was handled. One urgent meeting that was requested by members of parliament regarding a damning report from the ombudsman. When I mentioned to the minister that the meeting will continue with or without you, this was per the requesters. This is what was written on the letter to me as President of Parliament, that they would like to have the meeting with or without the minister. That was not me stating that personally. I was following the instructions of the members of Parliament that requested that. Members of Parliament, caring about each other is not the job. Protecting each other is not the job. I'm not here to make friends. And in politics, you need to have thick skin. And I've had thick skin since 1995. That's how much experience I have in politics with thick skin. Being with someone that I truly love and having him being whiplashed many times. We have thick skin. And we deal with it because we know who we are and who we stand for and what we stand for. We are here to represent the people to the best of our ability. This is the job. Voting your conscience. This is the job. It's about being impartial, consulting with the people, and doing what's right by the people. So if today I'm asked to resign or being fired for a job that I am doing right by the people, then so be it. Then people of St. Martin, let the chips fall where they fall, and let's start with the voting. I now turn the floor over to the Secretary General.
MP Christophe Emmanuel.
Against.
MP Melissa Gums.
Against.
MP William Marlin. For. MP George Ponteflet.
For.
MP Rayon Peterson.
Against.
MP Hyacinth Richardson.
For.
MP Angelique Rameau.
For.
MP Ludmila De Weaver.
Against.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Against.
MP Akeem Arundel.
For.
MP Sidhar Bijlani.
For.
MP Rolando Bryson.
For.
MP Chanel Brownbill. MP Solange Duncan.
Against?
Chair Lady of Parliament Grisha Helga Martin.
Against. The votes were carried 8 for and 7 against. Now, before I close this meeting, I'd like to just inform members of Parliament of the following. We have a little over 30 meetings pending thus far for the balance of the year. We have about 3.5 meeting weeks remaining this year, and more can be called between now and the end of this year. Approximately 9 of them, of the 30 meetings, are prior to 2021 to 2022, and 20 was for the last parliamentary year, 20 plus for 2021-2022. I would like to mention to everyone that of those 30 plus meetings, 9 were by the UP, NA, and USP faction, and about majority of it was with the UD, PFP, and independent faction. And of those 30 meetings, 55% are with the ministers, requesting that the minister be in office in Parliament, and 45% of them is with or without the minister, the third parties, or with or without ministers or with third parties. Ministers has been informed since May of 2022 what they have pending. And as recently as 2 days ago, they're also been informed. So by the per ministry, Minister of VSA has 6 meetings pending. Minister of TIAT has 4 meetings pending. Minister of Education has 5 meetings pending. Minister of ROMI has 5 meetings pending, which I suggested that he combine or consolidate 3. Minister of Justice has 3 meetings pending. Minister of Finance has 1 meeting pending, and the Minister of General Affairs has 2. So with that said, I just hope the next President of Parliament will then be able to execute these 30 plus meetings that are still pending. I took my time this week and reviewed it. The ministers are aware of what is pending of them. And with that, I would like to also, I'm not finished yet, Minister. You do not have the word right now. But, Sir Martin, I'm going to be making an announcement at 3:30 live on Facebook this afternoon. Please tune in, and I thank you, and I would like to now close this meeting. Meeting closed. Meeting closed.